complementing Yee I-Lann's Borneo Heart and the collection of archival material in Mafilindo, this section of the exhibition includes 2 short clips of news footage. The first of Malaysian Solidarity Week in Sabah in 1964 shows Sabah's then Chief Minister Dato Donald Stevens inaugurating an exhibition organized as part of Malaysian Solidarity Week in Sabah. The exhibition showcased the racial diversity of Malaysia and presented some 50 photographs of captured Indonesian insurgents, displayed alongside their jungle uniforms and other paraphernalia. In a speech related to this event, Dr. Donald Stevens notes that the Solidarity Week was held to show the world that despite Malaysia being composed of different races, he sees no difference in color and creed. He instead finds community in how people gathered to pledge loyalty to Malaysia. As part of the Solidarity Week, a crowd of 15,000 people gathered outside the exhibition venue, bearing banners and placards in protest of Sukarno's Konfrontasi doctrine and against Macapagal's claims to Sabah territory. State offices closed early so that employees could attend the protest. The second news footage from 1968 show Malaysian Prime Minister Tunku Abdul Rahman visiting Sabah to strengthen its ties with the rest of Malaysia. The footage shows a banner that reads, "People of Sabah will fight Philippine colonialization," and a burning effigy against Philippine President Marcos' signing of Senate Bill number 954, also known as the Sabah Bill. The bill, which institutionalized the Philippine claim to Sabah, did not claim Sabah as part of the Philippines' national territory. It instead claimed dominion over Sabah based on a 1962 deed of secession from the Sultan of Sulu to the Philippines. This argument had drastic implications on the competing claims on Borneo. For one, the annexation of North Borneo by the British government in July 1946 was untenable because of the territory belonging to the heirs of the Sultanate of Sulu, effectively placing it under Philippine authority and government. In 1957, the Sultan of Sulu declared that he was terminating the lease signed with the British North Borneo Company in 1878. He advocated for the Philippines to recover a portion of Borneo and its adjacent islands to the Philippines. The Philippine Congress, with the nudging of President Macapagal, would support this claim in 1962. The Manila Accord in 1963, associated with Mafilindo, was based in part on this claim. Yee I-Lann's Borneo Heart is a poster map of the world that literally places Borneo at the center of Southeast Asian regionalism and world-making. The early 1960s saw the consolidation of discourses on Malayan solidarity with the formation of Mafilindo, a short-lived confederation of then Malaya, the Philippines, and Indonesia based on a pan-Malayan ethnos. Borneo assumes a central role in this milieu as it plays out the limits and excesses of this configuration in relation to discourses of sovereignty, neocolonialism, and communism, and how these in turn framed issues of regionality and region formation. Sabah, in particular, becomes a site of confrontation that deployed diplomacy and armed conflict. In 1962, the Philippines staked its claims to the territory against the British colonial power, which led to a meeting between the two states in 1963 in London, wherein both states framed the issue of Sabah within diplomatic relations and the impinging threat of communism in the region. In 1963, armed conflict sparked in Sabah, led by freedom fighters encouraged by the Indonesian state propaganda against the establishment of Malaysia, branding it as a British neo-colonial ploy and empowering the armed offensive via covert military aid. This armed conflict and propaganda is enshrined in Indonesian President Sukarno's policy of konfrontasi, which aimed to forestall, if not prevent, the formation of Malaysia. Borneo Heart, as an artwork, speaks to this history and the centrality of Borneo in the Cold War Southeast Asian regionalism. The artist that made it, Yee I-Lann, currently lives and works in Kota Kinabalu in the Malaysian Borneo state of Sabah. Her primarily photo media-based practices engage with archipelagic Southeast Asia's turbulent history with works addressing issues of colonialism and neocolonialism, power, and the impact of historic memory in social experience, often with a particular focus on counter-narrative histories from below.
Hi, my name is Yee I-Lann. I'm speaking from my studio in Kota Kinabalu in Sabah, the northern Malaysian Borneo part of Borneo Island. And for the exhibition Cast But One Shadow at Vargas Museum, I am showing a map called Borneo Heart. And it's a map that started from a Facebook rant, as I am known to do. This was made in August, September 2019. And at the time, there were these terrible haze fires. There were peat fires throughout the island of Borneo, both in Kalimantan side of Borneo and also the Malaysian states of Borneo Island. And it was one of our worst haze situations in quite some time. And I mean, to a degree, we've come to live with these haze fires. They're peat fires, so they're very long burning fires, terrible fires, usually triggered by smallholders, palm oil plantation burning. Also, some large companies as well burning off oil palm plantation land. But this particular rant of the popular says.com website that showed this incredible python, and it was this very regal python of considerable size, therefore considerable age, and it had lifted up, and it was sort of photographed, lifted up from a log, burnt out python with its mouth open. And it just triggered me. It was this ancient creature that had so many stories about that land that it had been living in, and it was now this crisp, barbecued, giant, beautiful python. And I just couldn't help but imagine what other creatures had been barbecued by these fires. And you know, a lot of I guess you could call it the past stereotype, but truth as well, of Borneo Island is its incredibly rich and diverse biodiversity. It's jungles, it's plants, it's animals, and I just reacted so strongly to these fires on this particular occasion. I think also because in 2019, August, September of 2019, this was just prior to the Australian fires of November, December 2019. So in August, September, if we think back, it was when the Amazon was also burning and the Congo was also burning. And so us, the Congo, the Amazon, the island of Borneo, are all on the equator. It was our rainforest of the globe was burning, and there was this blanketing haze that removed vision, that removed sight, that filled your lungs, and it was awful. And as a kind of rant, in a way, I wanted to talk about the biodiversity of Borneo in an emo way that is my home, that is the home of a very unusual and rich biodiversity. But for it not to belong to just me, a Bornean or a Malaysian or Indonesian or Bruneian, but to the world, along with the Amazon and the Congo. And I started to think of these three vital sites sharing the equator or linked by the line of the equator as being sort of the part of our singular global body, if you like. So then as I looked at this globe and this map and how we are all interconnected, I also wanted to stress that Borneo is also right at the geographic center of our ASEAN region, of the 10 countries of ASEAN. And I think of that as being I think of us as Borneans as being at the heart of ASEAN. And we are at an apex point where Dutch Kalimantan would meet British Borneo, would meet the Spanish and American Philippines, where Catholicism and Islam and animism are butted. And it's a really unique geographic site, I think, in the corridors of our Southeast Asian region. But we're never really included in conversations. We're never given the vitality of being labeled and regarded as the center of anything, really. And I just wanted to not talk about the nation state, not talk about the country, but to talk about geography, about our influence. In the days of Macapagal and Sukarno, it was Mafalindo. And in a way, Borneo, we are Mafalindo, whether or not it took a formal shape. We are influenced by Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines. We do bring the Philippines story as our neighbor and as a bridge, in a way, to the other Malay lingua franca of the region, people, culture, all of this. So I very bombastically and somewhat self-righteously made this Facebook map. It was made on Facebook, called Borneo Heart, where it places a heart, which is kind of the shape of Borneo, crudely onto the island of Borneo, and then it's got this rough drawn artery red line that joins us with our two lungs, that's of the Congo and the Amazon. And I just wanted to sort of describe this interconnectedness, both within our immediate ASEAN region and also globally, and how this singular python that triggered me, this king python, meant something in terms of our global health, if you like. So that's how this map started. Also an exhaustion, the exhaustion of politics, the exhaustion of economic battle, of identity politics. And soon after this, I mean, just days after I'd made this map, Jokowi reiterated an Indonesian plan to move Jakarta city to the island of Borneo, because Jakarta city is sinking at a dangerous rate. And so there was this notion of this megapolis, this mega city moving to this island of Borneo, and the anxiety that brings. How might, as much as I complain about not being the center of anything, what happens when we do become a center of something? How that might change our socio-political dynamic for good, for bad. What might that mean for our very, very, very precious environment? Because we are a global hotspot in terms of climate change and biodiversity. So all of this was this anxiety that resulted in this bombastic work. And I wanted to share it because it did come from a Facebook post, and friends of mine, thank you, did contribute comments and opinions. So I wanted us to be able to share this. So thus it became this poster that is meant to be cheap and easily available to people as a memento of a trigger, really, an environmentally triggered, geopolitically triggered anxiety and uncertainty about what might happen to Borneo and the island, a geography, not a country, I love saying that I'm from Borneo because it means I come from a geography, not necessarily it's not a country. And I kind of love the liberty of that. So all of that is in this very bombastic, self-righteous poster. Yeah, so I hope that within the Vargas Museum, it will, and with a Filipino audience, you will notice that I changed the name of the South China Sea. The South China Sea is pushed up north, and then the West Philippine Sea is called the West Philippine Sea in solidarity with the Philippines. And south of that, it's called the Great Borneo Sea, which is what I call the South China Sea. And I call it the South China Sea because it is about geography and is not about nation state. It's not about ownership. It's about a place in the world, shared knowledge, shared identities, shared language, shared histories, shared political anxieties, all of that. And I think the Great Borneo Sea remembers that Borneo is at the center of this geopolitical region, and it puts emphasis on the knowledge that comes that Borneo is a tipping point, ecologically and socially vital and sensitive part of the world that does need a certain amount of protection that comes with the era that we live in. So my hope for the poster is it triggers these ideas really. And in solidarity with the Philippines, I hope you like that the West Philippine Sea is called the West Philippine Sea. So thank you to Kat and Carlos, and also to Patrick at Vargas for having us, and all the best for the exhibition. Thank you.